Welcome to Digital Hospitality. I am your host, Shawn Walchef. This is a Cali BBQ and Cali BBQ Media production. Digital hospitality is our deep belief that all businesses, especially brick and mortar businesses, need to be digital first, and all businesses need to be in the hospitality business. We are here at the Restaurant Transfomation Festival, 2-day sold-out conference, Restaurant 365, who does all of our accounting at Cali Barbecue. We are proud partners, but I'm here with Kevin McTigue, Solutions Engineer.
Happy to be here.
What's up?
Not much, man. Excited to be here at our first ever Restaurant Transfomation Festival.
So you have hundreds of staff, Restaurant 365 staff that are here also.
We do.
Yet you were selected to come on mic because of your expertise.
Hey, I'm just
No
happy
pressure.
to be here, man.
No pressure.
I don't get to do a lot of these media, but I was voluntold, as we say.
Voluntold. Well, one of the reasons why we love doing this show is it gives us an opportunity to tell stories that are typically untold, especially on the media side. Typically, we're not talking about finances, which is surprising given that you can't run a business without finances. You can't run a business if you aren't profitable. But that's why I love doing events with Restaurant 365, is because we get to have a lot of conversations that typically don't get front and center. Talk about your career in the restaurant space as a chief financial officer.
Yeah, happy to. So I had a chance to really get my start in Chicago back in 2013. My college buddy and his brother were starting a restaurant group. They had 4 units and were really just starting to figure out what they were doing, but didn't have anybody really managing the books. The CEO, my buddy's older brother, was doing all the books himself and was doing a decent job for somebody who really hadn't had an accounting background. But
you're being nice.
Maybe
I know enough
bit.
CEOs. I'm one of them, so you don't need to be nice. We know why they brought you in. We're a mess.
But I was living in New Orleans at the time, and they said come visit us in Chicago. I said I'll come for a weekend. I'm not staying for a long time. It's too cold up there. And saw the restaurant, tasted the food, saw what they were doing, and was just blown away. And, decided to uproot and move from New Orleans to Chicago in the, spring of 2013, and really started as the first corporate hire at that small organization. And we were really off to the races. I mean, they already had 4 units operating. They were opening the 5th when I got there. We doubled to 8 in the first year. We added another 4 in the second year. I mean, we got to 30 locations in 4 years. So really, really rapid growth.
Same concept?
Same concept. Fast casual, Middle Eastern concept. Not at the time, is now.
Okay.
We were looking at organic growth at the time, but certainly franchising has become really popular in recent years. And, we were, starting small in Chicago, but grew to multiple states, multiple markets, looking for that proof of concept, looking for additional investment, and, really, learned a lot of valuable tools and a lot of lessons along the way. It was my first real restaurant finance and accounting role. I had done, a small CPA firm before that. I had worked in a casino before that, but this was really my first time managing restaurant financials. And it was just a really eye-opening experience to start to understand, like you said, just how critical it is to be focused on the financial management of your business as a hospitality, restaurant organization, because the margins are just so razor thin. And I mean, I think people who are in the industry know that really well, but for your, usual person that you talk to who's going into a restaurant and saying, oh man, the prices have gone up since the last time I was here, they don't necessarily understand just how tight the margins are in our industry and how critically important it is to have visibility into those margins and those financials in as close to real time as possible, right? I mean, things happen so quickly in terms of your costs going up on your food costs, labor markets changing, staffing challenges, finding good real estate. It's just a lot of moving parts that you need to make sure you're really on top of every single piece of your P&L to know, where's my next opportunity to grow this business? Where's my next opportunity to continue to succeed? Where are the headwinds coming from potentially that are going to be really hard to face in the coming, months or years? Certainly working in Chicago, I mean, we had to deal with seasonality, right? Yeah. I mean, wild changes in sales revenues from July to December, and making sure that you had the staff that was appropriate to provide the best customer experience. And while that's, certainly an operations focus, the operators are always going to look to the finance team to sort of see, how are we doing? Where, can I do this? We want to open another restaurant. We want to put in this really fancy equipment package.
Come
do
on.
we have the budget for this?
Sounds like you've talked to a lot of owner operators.
Well, it was a cool part about joining a small organization was being a really tight knit management group, right? I joined when there were 4 founders that were directly integrated with the day-to-day operations. My buddy and I were kind of that next layer or level of management, and we all just worked really closely together. So, I mean, it's not always the case necessarily at larger organizations, but I think to a certain extent in the restaurant industry, the finance team, good ones in my opinion, are really integrated with the operations of the business in terms of understanding the challenges and having the communications and aligning on strategy, right? And not just being an accounting team that slaps your hand when you spend too much or when you code an invoice the wrong way, and instead being a collaborative partner that can actually say, look, here are the trends that I'm seeing in all of our costs. Here are the areas of opportunity that I see to drive top line revenues. Let's get together and think about how we can both achieve our goals. And honestly, for me, especially starting in that role and then into my subsequent roles at other organizations, I love the hospitality industry. I love restaurants. I couldn't hack it as an operator. So for me, it was really about finding who my customer was. I wasn't serving the customers directly. I wasn't making food, but to me, the operators really were my customer. So it was really about making their lives easier, giving them the information they needed, and really just hoping to free up all of the back office stuff that can take the joy out of restaurant operations for operators and free up their time to do what they love the most, coaching and developing great teams and providing those, surprise and delight moments for their customers.
Do you have any stories of back in the day when you said you were working with casinos and then you came over to restaurants? Those are 2 different profit centers. Do you have any stories of when you realized how thin the margins are in restaurants?
Yeah, I mean, when I was working in the casino, I was doing the kind of financial reporting for all of the food and beverage outlets in the casinos.
Okay.
So I started, reviewing the financials for,
You were already asking questions.
I was.
What is going on here?
But the thing was, like, the reason I say that restaurant company was my first real time with restaurant financial management is because when I was in the casino, all of the food and beverage outlets were ancillary.
Yes.
It was all about making sure that people stayed fed so that they could get back to the table and the slot revenue.
The profitability.
Exactly. Yep. So when I was kind of coming up with ideas of like, hey, if we bought it in this pack size instead of this one, or if we did this change instead of that change, maybe we could squeeze a little bit more profit out of the steakhouse, yep, out of the, the cafeteria, out of the buffet. And those polite suggestions were always kind of brushed aside, as it was like, look, we don't have time to really be worrying about that. We're focused way more on our primary revenue driver.
So how did you come to Restaurant 365?
Yeah. So after that first concept that I worked for in Chicago, I joined another group out of Chicago that was already using the R365 product. And that was my first chance using it. Although I had a chance to buy it at the original organization, and I really wish I had, because once I finally got to use a restaurant-specific accounting package, I was able to see just how much easier it could make our lives in terms of everything making a lot more sense, and in terms of really breaking down any walls that existed between operations and accounting. So on the more generic accounting systems that I used at the previous organization, there was just not enough automation. There wasn't enough built into the softwares that we were using that understood the challenges of the restaurant industry from an accounting perspective. And so when we would try to do things, even in terms of basic reports, it felt like it was a really heavy lift internally to just get one report out that made sense to restaurant operators. We'd have to do everything in Excel, move a bunch of numbers here, there, this way, that, and the other, just to get to something that was pretty accepted industry standard wise of like how you review your business.
Yeah.
Once I started using an R365 product, I was able to see like, look, they've already thought about all of this. And now I can spend less time putting reports together in Excel and more time analyzing the results and communicating with operators about, hey, here's what we're seeing in terms of rising costs, shrinking revenues, reclassifications, anything that needs to be adjusted, and starting to have the conversations that were more collaborative and less, me putting out a financial report 3 weeks late and saying like, you should have watched your food costs 4 weeks ago. And they're like, how does that help me now? Like, we're already 4 weeks into the next month.
How long have you been at Restaurant 365?
I've been in with R365 for almost 2 years.
2 years. Did you come to them or they come to you?
So when I was working with that new organization using the R365 product, forged great relationships with my R365 account manager, customer success manager. Because when I arrived at that new organization, they had implemented R365 several years before I joined. And I inherited a little bit of a mess from a database standpoint, but I saw the potential in this product. I was like, look, if we spend a little bit of time investing into how to learn and how to use this product, I think we can really make all of our lives a lot easier. But I couldn't do it alone, right? It's just so robust of a software application that I couldn't like just crack that code by myself, or it would have taken way too long. So by leaning on my sales reps, my account executive, my customer success manager, and saying, hey, help me figure out how to get the most out of your software, because we were paying for it, right? We were paying for all these features and tools. We just weren't using more than 30% of them. So once we got the team involved in teaching us and training us and following best practices, all of a sudden we were able to unlock so many other elements of the software and of our own business, because we were able to really start figuring out where our opportunities lied to. I mean, especially to drive down food costs and to better manage our labor costs, prime costs in general. So fast forward to, a couple of years ago when I was kind of looking to make a change, I reached out to my old colleagues who were working at R365 and said, hey, do you know anyone that is looking for somebody with experience on your platform to continue, managing the finances? Thought I was staying safe, staying in the accounting finance industry where there are always jobs. Yeah. And they said, I don't know anyone off the top of my head, but have you ever thought about coming to work for us? And I said, look, I've always had an interest in the tech space, never knew how I would kind of even get my first foot in the door. And I'm really glad that they suggested it. I mean, they said, look, take a look at our open positions, apply to whatever sounds right. I think I applied to like 8 jobs here at R365 because I had no idea what I was doing in the tech industry and at a SaaS company. And so I just kind of threw my name into a bunch of hats.
Aren't we all just trying to figure it out?
Still, to this day.
We're trying to figure out the media thing here. We're a barbecue brand. So, I mean, we're all just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think one of the most important principles that you talked about, which was asking for help.
Yeah.
It takes humility to ask for something that you don't know when you know what your background is and think as someone that I should be able to figure it out. But when you do ask for help, you start to develop those deep relationships. And not only that, but it's when you're asking for help, you're actually helping Restaurant 365 build better products.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, that was the thing, they didn't even realize that we were sitting and languishing with their product, which now that I'm on the other side, I mean, that's my nightmare, right? Yeah. That somebody's paying us for our product and not using 30% of it. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you do? I mean, obviously events like this allow people from all different restaurant groups to come out here to ask questions, to learn through programming. But what other things specifically does Restaurant 365 do to help people better use the software that they're paying for?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, what we are really doing is trying to make sure that we're finding as many avenues as possible to connect with customers. Like you mentioned, we've got the on-the-road events, our restaurant transformation tours, restaurant transformation festivals. We're also doing a lot of proactive outreach to our customers, checking in periodically and making sure that you have talked to somebody in our company at least in the last 90 days, right? And so that you're aware of all of the new products and features that we're launching, because that was the other thing that really drew me to our company is I've used a lot of technology solutions geared towards restaurants, right? Some of them have not changed in a very long time. They figured out a formula for success a long time ago, and they said, we can keep doing this and we can keep making money and we can stay profitable. But here at R365, we understand that that's not enough, and we're continuously innovating and continuously releasing new products based on the feedback that we're getting from our clients and our employees who have worked in the restaurant industry, right? We need that insight to see what are the trends, what's happening in the industry, where are your pain points, to help us figure out where should we be putting our time and effort into building new products that are ultimately going to help restaurants thrive?
If you look 5 years, 10 years down the road, and you could tell Tony and Morgan specifically, build this would help somebody that was in my position where you sat before, what would that be?
Well, I mean, look, payroll is a big pain point for every organization in every industry. And so it's not a coincidence that we have decided to put a big, development effort into our new workforce product, and really to help restaurants with what has always been a challenge, but has obviously become a significantly larger challenge over the last few years. So staffing, hiring, recruiting great people, retaining those great people, understanding how to fairly compensate them to keep it competitive in the marketplace. Really, I think that's where the biggest challenges our operators are finding today, especially, as you think about customers walking in the door who are sensitive to the fact that prices are higher than they were a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And, what's an operator to do? There's only so much cost that you can pass on to the customer when in the face of rising food costs and in the face of changing labor markets, while still being really fair to your employees. So I think we're doing the right thing in terms of focusing and realizing that to this point, there really hasn't been a payroll and human resources management solution out there geared specifically towards restaurants. And I think that's why we're really focusing our efforts there. And the other one is our intelligence solution, right? All of our restaurant operators that we talk to in surveys and personal interviews are saying that they don't have enough data to make the right decisions, right? It's not enough to know what are my prime costs and what are my sales. You need to know what are my sales growth over prior year, not just in terms of dollars and percentages, but where is it coming from? What are my revenue sources? I'm now being pulled into 3 or 4 different third-party delivery solutions. Are these actually good for my business, right? I mean, some people view them as a necessary evil. Other people look at them as a wild new frontier. And you're not really going to know which one it is for your business unless you have a way to process the data that comes from traffic, ticket, guest experience, the commissions, the fees, all the costs that go into.
Are you telling me the third parties, they give you a different contract fee than actually they charge you? Are you breaking news on this show?
I don't know.
Is that why you need a partner like Restaurant 365 to help reconcile those payments?
I think a lot of people thought that, delivery sounds great and 20%, sure, that makes sense. And then once you get under the hood of it, you start to realize that 20% cuts a lot of different ways once you start finding different words for delivery. Once you start talking about commissions and chargebacks and errors and disputes and marketing and administrative fees and marketplace facilitator taxes, it's like you guys they're in a business to make money as well, right? And they're large companies, right? They're not exactly reaching out proactively to every sole proprietor and saying, hey, how can we help make you successful? They're saying, hey, how can we get you on our platform and help deliver your food? And so you really need somebody in your corner to help hold those big behemoth companies, accountable so that you're actually making sure that this is the right decision for my business.
I appreciate that. Every single Wednesday, Friday on the app, social audio app, Clubhouse, 10 a.m. Pacific time. You can join us. So if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, what's important is to stay curious, to get involved, to ask for help. But the social audio app, if you come and join us, tell us about your restaurant. Tell us about your building. If you're in the tech space, sales space, marketing space, we are all in the content space. We are all in the storytelling space. So I'm going to make sure that Kevin is posting this on LinkedIn and whatever other platforms, because that's the only way that we grow. Lessons and stories and the things that we do, the amount of time and effort that Restaurant 365 has done to put this event on. So many incredible lessons and stories will come from this event. And because of that, these leaders will get better. And because you're listening to this show, we want you to get better. So please reach out to me. It's at Shawn P. Walchef, ShawnPWalchef. That's on LinkedIn, Instagram, Threads, TikTok. I'm weirdly available on all platforms. How can people get in touch with you?
Oh, I mean, certainly I am not as well versed in the social media space
I'll get
as
you there.
are, but you'll
That's
get
why
me
this
there.
is part of the intervention.
But definitely, come to our website, request a demo, request more information, reach out to us on social media. Obviously, R365 is all
You guys do
over
a
the
great job
usual
on
ones.
social.
We've got some great people
You've
behind
got
that
a
team
great
as
team
well.
behind it.
And certainly info at start the conversation with us. We're going to point you in the right direction.
We appreciate it. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for watching. We will catch you next week. Thank you.